Projecting China to the year 2050 and 2100. In terms of climate change, the average temperatures in China are expected to rise faster than the global average by 5.2 degrees Celsius by the year 2100. We should also expect an increase in the range of temperatures from lows to highs. This is the predictions of a climate risk country profile of China provided by the Asian Development Bank. These environmental changes will stress crops and vegetation. In addition, China has an urban heat island effect caused by conurbations. These are enormous collections of cities connected to each other, and that can increase the temperature by 3 degrees Celsius within the cities. Now, the human body cannot regulate temperatures on their own over 35 degrees Celsius, so this poses a major health issue. China is also expected to have frequent heat waves by century's end. 1/3 of Chinese farmland is susceptible to drought and floods. China is ranked 61st out of 181 countries for climate vulnerability. China, however, is not facing dramatic changes in rainfall overall, which is critical because it's the most important variable affecting the effectiveness of agriculture. China aims to be carbon neutral by 2060. Worst case outcomes see China's annual probability of a drought increasing to 4% and then to between 20 and 36% if climate change is not stopped. There's a reduction of water in the Yellow River, of which 30 to 40% can be attributed to climate change. China's Himalayan glaciers are expected to lose 20 to 90% of their mass, significantly reducing the volume of river water by 2100. Agriculture may lose between 1.5 to 20% of its yield per season as a consequence. 11.4% of China's population lives in areas that will be affected by rising sea levels by 2100. Now in 2050, which is the near term, China's economy is expected to surpass that of the US. In this projection, you see China's economy at 44.5 trillion versus an American economy of 35.2 trillion. The differences in GDP per capita is about 50,000 for Americans and about 30,000 for Chinese. Here you can see the economy in 2010, and in 2050, China is expected to be the largest economy in the world, followed by the US, which has about 2/3 of China's economy, then India, then the European Union, which is going to be behind India, and then you have a big drop-off to individual countries like Brazil, Russia. Japan is still expected to be very wealthy, and you have the rise of countries like Mexico, Indonesia, and then the big three European countries, Nigeria, and then a slew of other countries. Here's another estimate of the GDP of the countries in 2050. Here, the US is almost half of China's economy. India is very similar to the US. The European Union is significantly less than India. And then you've got Brazil, Russia, and other countries, Indonesia, Mexico. Again, here's another projection to the year 2050. And in this projection, the GDP and purchasing power parity shows China first, India second, the US third, and then Brazil, with again Japan remaining competitive. And you can see the projected annual average growth rates for different countries up until 2050, with Vietnam, India, Nigeria at the top. So here's the estimated GDP per capita. You can see the US at $85,000 to $90,000, followed by Canada, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan, Korea, Russia, Italy, and you see countries that had avoided the middle income trap: Turkey, Mexico, Brazil, and then China's immediately behind them. Urbanization is expected to continue globally, but particularly in China. China is expected to be over 2/3 urbanized by 2050, making it less urbanized than Europe and North America, which is around 90%, and Brazil, but compared to India, which will only be 50%. And here you can see the gradual slowing of China's growth rates. So it'll be about 4.3% average from 2020 to 2030, and then it'll slow down to 2.4% from 2030 to 2040, and then 2%, which is normalized. Now this is problematic because this means China's heading for a middle income trap. So the population levels we have today are enormous. They're much larger than anything we've ever had in the past, and so it's very difficult to judge what the dynamics are, especially making long-term projections. You can see here the population of China going up and down in response to various opportunities and agricultural openings of land, and then reduced by, say, the Mongols in 1200, 1300, when the Yuan dynasty took up. There was a huge loss in the population. Now on the right side you can see India's population by age sex, and you can also see the working age population of India basically already passing that of China, as well as the overall population. But you can also see sub-Saharan Africa passing India's working age population before 2050. So India's coming along as a major competitor to China, globally speaking, as a global factory. And Africa is following third behind, although Africa, of course, is a continent. So here you can see the transition between China and India in their populations, which was predicted for 2021, 2022. And you can see the significant drop in China's population as India's population continues to grow until 2064. So here are estimates for China's population. There are some estimates that see China's population remaining above 1 billion, and some seeing catastrophically low numbers that are consistent with the low total fertility rates of countries like South Korea and Singapore and Taiwan. Again, you can see the cumulative change in the size of the working age populations, defined as those between 15 to 64. And you can see again India having a larger working age population than the US, and China declining along with Europe and Japan in terms of the general decline in the number of people that are working age. So in 2100, we see the largest populations in the world, and we can see India is in this projection 1.4 billion. And you can see China is still above 1 billion. Nigeria is 733 million, and the US is 434. And then you've got Pakistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Indonesia, and then 3 more countries on the continent of Africa. Now, in this projection, the world's largest economy in 2100 will be India. Of course, India's per capita income will be less than that of China or the US, but its overall economy will be larger than China's, and this will more than twice the size of the US economy. And then you'll have a quick drop-off of Indonesia, Brazil. Essentially, those states with huge land masses sufficient to hold large populations. Now this shows you in the light brown on the left the increase of the world's workforce that's going to come from Africa in the year 2100. So we're looking at over 1/3 of all people working in the world will be working in Africa, which will make it an engine of growth. And you can see the net decline in Asia and minor declines in Europe and Latin America and North America.